we go.
Okay, hi everybody. My name is Heidi Code-Hermelin, as Ann just said, and I am one of the co-leaders of the solo and small firm section. And we are co-sponsoring this with the women's section today. I'll tell you a little bit about how the program is going to run. We're going to allow the panelists to tell you about the path that their legal career has taken. Then we're going to take a short poll about the topics you're most interested in today. Then we're going to have a presentation by the panelists with some questions directed to their career paths and the things that they found to be important. And at the end, we'll have a question and answer session. But also during the presentation, feel free to use the chat if you have questions that come up during the program. So I'll tell you that the panelists are Punita Bhasin, Audrey G, and Terry Leoni. And I'm going to ask Terry Leoni to go first and tell you about her career path.
Thanks, Heidi. And I'm so glad everyone's here. And thank you. I had this idea quite some time ago, sort of ruminating in my head. It started off with a bit different title. We can chat about that at some point. But really, it's just about women, supporting women, not being competitive, and just making sure we all have a place to succeed. So I'm so glad everyone's here, and really, I'm glad it's a small group too, because then people can just kind of chime in and ask questions. But in kind of thinking about my career, I think I am always trying to prove myself wrong. I never thought I'd go to law school. Then I was a DA here in Contra Costa County, never thought I'd be a litigator. And then I never thought I'd leave the DA's office, but for various reasons, I joined a small boutique local law firm, almost primarily representing public safety, really nice, fun family atmosphere. But, you know, I found two things. I'd sort of hit a wall that I'd done kind of everything that I thought I could do in that practice, and really hit, I guess, a glass wall or the glass ceiling that I felt like I wasn't going to move up there. So I moved to probably an even more sexist place for a very short amount of time, where one of the things that was said to me was, you look as good going as you do coming. And I'm sure a lot of us have dealt with that. And so that was a very short-lived job. And I found myself sort of unemployed for the first time in a long time. And I took a sabbatical, as I call it, to really think about what I wanted to do. And I just started planning and thinking, and my own firm kind of came up organically, probably really different than a lot of other people. I had a friend say, hey, just get some cheap malpractice insurance, get an email address, and help me out do some contract work. And before I knew it, I had started a firm with 0 clients. So probably really different from a lot of people, but it has really given me the flexibility, the independence to do what I want. So here I am. And thank you, Celine and Heidi, for letting us do this program.
Thank you, Terry. How about Punita? Would you like to go next?
Sure, thank you. So this is Punita. I'm Punita Bhasin, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to be among such fantastic, wonderful women here. For me, I was actually working as an in-house patent agent and a contract professional for a biotech company. But it was like having a young family. It was like I cannot go to work every morning, 9 o'clock. I have to get my kids ready. I have so much things to do. So I have to do something else now. I have to think about, moving forward, but not a job anymore. So that's when I decided I should go to a law school. I attended a law school part-time along with the job. That was hard, 4 years. But thankfully, I could do all those, and then the bar. And I was very clear from the start that I want to start my own law firm. I want to do work for myself. I should give myself at least 2 to 3 years and see if it's working or not. So it's been a year now, and so far so good. I feel like I have a little flexibility here. I can schedule my timings. I can be around the kids. I can work how much amount of work I want to do. So here I am. I hopefully I'm going to learn a lot from you ladies, and maybe I'll provide my 2 cents here from the experience I have here. Thank you.
Thank you, Punita. And Audrey, you're up.
Hi, everyone. So I'm just so happy to be here. The women's section is near and dear to my heart, so this is wonderful. I am a business litigator. My firm is Brown, G. and Wenger. I also do a lot of employment law, mostly defense and class action work, sometimes some wrongful terminations, and also some consulting as well. In terms of my path, let's see, I started out at a small firm in San Jose. It was a spinoff of one of the Pillsbury, Madison, and Sutro places when they closed up their San Jose shop and they're moving to Menlo Park, and the San Jose partners wanted to stay there. So I started with them and was commuting from Walnut Creek, which was terrible. So then I looked at firms here in Walnut Creek and then realized, oh, there's like a great life out here. So joined Morgan Miller Blair, worked as an associate there, had some really good mentors, made partner. And then with a few of my partners who I jumped ship with, started our own firm. And that was in 2011. So I've been practicing for more than 25 years, which is really weird. But here we are. So happy to be here. Thanks.
That can't be possible. You look way too young.
Keep it up, Terry.
Lies, Audrey, all lies.
Thank you, Audrey. Ann Wolf, are you ready to put up our poll? Or Ann Wolf?
Who knew? There we go. Okay, ready to poll. Launching poll. There are 3 questions.
So if
I'm
you
sure
could just-
everyone understands the moving up is sort of moving up in your firm, sort of moving up to be partner, moving out is, solo or a small practice.
What if we're staying right where we are?
You are a solo, right?
Yes. Hmm.
I'm still deciding or undecided or?
I'm still undecided about life.
Okay, are the speakers can you guys do it too?
Oh, shoot, I closed mine.
Okay, I got 12 of 15.
Yeah, I did it.
Okay, anybody else haven't done it yet?
And this is Sarah. I'm not going to do it because it's not exactly applicable to me. I was like, I don't know how to answer this. So
No,
you
that's
can help
fine.
me
I
out.
don't want to turn it off if okay, so that sounds about right. There's about 3 of us who haven't. Okay, I'm going to end it and post it.
Thank you.
Here are the results. So I'll scroll up there. So everybody's got that. And then
It's a good mix.
okay, speakers, are you good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna download that. Oops. Oh, I don't know what that does. I don't want to go off. Okay, so we're good. So good
Great.
mix, a lot of older. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. And get rid of that. Okay, so I'm gonna spotlight the speakers and Celine, so you guys can all chat. And
Well, thank you for that intro. I guess we can jump into questions, right? And that we have created. So this is for all 3 panelists. And the question is, aside from performing well in your legal work, what can you do to stand out as partner material? I guess we can start with Punita first. Well, actually, do you want to speak on that, or?
I think yeah, Audrey or Terry.
Okay,
I think
Terry.
Audrey would be perfect for this, and I have a great little anecdote because when I sort of went out from the DA's office to my firm, and I'd been there, my former firm, and I'd been there for a bit thinking about wanting to be partner and moving up. Audrey was one of the first people that I chatted with, and she had some fantastic ideas. And I talked about this for the OWL Award. She always walks the walk and talks the talk, and was so helpful to think, you know, hey, go out, be a rainmaker, do this, do that, and always there to support. And she's the one in a small firm and made partner. So I found your advice invaluable, and I think everyone else would too.
Well, my goodness, I don't know if I can live up to that, Terry. And I'm glad that it was helpful. And so I think, you know, it's going to depend, the advice is going to depend on each person, right? And it's going to depend on where you're at. So in terms of, you know, how do you make partner, or what do you do to stand out to be an excellent partner? It's always going to be different, because it's going to be, what is it that your firm needs, right? Sometimes firms need they need people who are working really hard, can take cases, star in them, and run them. Sometimes it's firms that they need rainmakers, right? And so there's a lot of different things. So I think one of the first things that you would need to do is figure out, what is it that's going to make your firm successful? What's going to make you successful? Like, what is it? What do you already have a lot of? Do you have a lot of worker bees? Do you have a lot of lieutenants? Do you have a lot of rainmakers already? And where can you fill the need? So certainly quality legal work is number one, right? You have to be doing that excellent legal work. But from there, like, what is it that you're going to be doing? Do you need someone who's going to be doing marketing more, writing articles, meeting new people, starting industry groups? I mean, I think there's lots of different ways that we could approach this in terms of what makes you indispensable, right? Indispensable to the people. Because when you're thinking of yourself, if you're an associate and you're thinking about moving up, or if you're a junior partner and you're thinking about moving up, well, what is it that you need? And if you're going to start out on your own, what do you need around you? What are you good at? And what are the other people who you need to be good at, right? Or if you're going to be the only person, then you need to kind of be good at everything. So then that's rainmaking, that's the business part of it, that's the legal work. But really, to have a successful law firm, you need that team. And so figuring out what parts people need.
I really agree with Audrey too, sort of moving. I think most places you should move from that worker bee position, just, you know, taking work or getting assigned work, being that workhorse is great, but it only goes so far. You do want to make, I think indispensable is such a great word, and really stand out, have a presence. I remember, you know, after being at my old firm for a few years, I found a hole in sort of client work that a lot of clients and people that we assisted needed some education. So I went to the partners and said, hey, I want to put on this big event and, you know, invite our clients, other people. It's great marketing, and they're still doing that today. So that was a big idea that I had, and it really, you know, it keeps growing and growing and growing. And it was a huge marketing thing for them. So bring ideas to partners. Show, if you have an evaluation, don't think of it as criticism. Say, how can I improve? What can I do? I remember I ended up taking a few law practice management classes. So when I came back the next year, they said, hey, we thought it, you know, the year before, we thought it would be good to do X, Y, and Z. And I told them, hey, I listened to you and I did this. So really show the partners that you want to be there, you want to stay, you can bring business in, and you listen to what they say. I think that's really important as well.
Right.
I think I agree. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go ahead, Punita.
Yeah, I think I agree with Terry. I mean, I don't have an experience in law firm, but being an in-house also, it applies, you know, like moving up in your position in in-house. Like if you are doing a lot of like seminars for them, educational seminars for them, giving like taking up more projects, like, okay, this is something that we can do, providing your own suggestions, how you can, generate kind of like more work for yourself, or how this is more important for the company, this part is more important, rather than you just doing whatever is being given to you. That also helps you to show that how important this position is, how important this work is, and you should get some upgrades here, you should, the salary upgrades or the position upgrades. I think it also applies to as an in-house too. And yes, I think for a firm, I think like speaking arrangements, it's getting your, yes, you do need like worker be doing a lot of work for the firm, but feel like, if you are out there networking, spreading your firm's name, that also is something that makes you indispensable for your firm too, is what I feel.
One thing that's really helpful, I agree with you, Punita, all of those things, is if you're focusing on a specific skill set. So if you bring something to the firm that no one else has, so I think, Punita, you have all of the IP experience, right? And it's like no one else might have that experience in your firm. So everyone's going to be coming to you for all the trademark questions or whatever, right? Or in my case, I did a lot of the employment law. And even though a bunch of people in my former firm had done some employment law, none of them really focused on it. So just knowing that area like really deeply is also one way you can establish and carve out a niche for yourself.
I have a follow-up question to that. Like, what if you are a solo practitioner, but you want to partner with like another solo practitioner? What are some materials? What are some things, characteristics? Like maybe it can be more complementary, have a complementary practice, like wills and trust and taxes is one I've seen, or
Right.
litigation, transactional. Like,
Right.
What have you seen?
Yeah, I think, you want to have someone, well, I've thought about this and people have approached me, but as what people have said is it's like a marriage, right? So you should start out dating, see if it works first,
Yes.
see if you have the same sort of values.
Yes.
Who's going to be the rainmaker? Who's going to run the firm? Who's going to be kind of more the worker bee? And do you have those same ideas? If you haven't started out together, I think it's harder to meld afterward. For instance, I'll just use Erica McKenna. She's on the big board. With her partners, she has an agreement that she's going to be practicing more or focusing more on the networking side of things. And they do a lot more of the litigation and the work. She has sort of her fingers spread out, all over. So I think that's one big thing, having the same value set, mindset, and then seeing, do your practice areas cross? Can you work well together? I'd recommend before you do that, date before you get married.
I agree.
I cannot stress enough how much what Terry said is right on the money, because you can just like, from a book, start choosing people and saying, oh, a litigator and a transactional person, or right, a real estate person. And then I also need a corporate transaction person or a tax person, right? And you can do all those sorts of things. But in order, so maybe I'm kind of jumping ahead, but if you're going to be jumping out and forming your own firm, you want to make sure that that marriage that Terry's talking about is going to work, right? So you want to be looking at, who am I going to be trusting with my life, right? And make sure that your values and not just your skills, but what you're going to be thinking about. What is your vision for the firm? Where are you going to be spending money? Where are you going to be investing that money? All of those things as you grow up, that that you're going to be aligned, because at your core, your values are going to align. And so that's really, really, really more important than everything else. Everything else is derivative from there, because you're going to be talking about comp, you're going to be talking about just all of that stuff. And that's the key point. So Terry, thank you for bringing it up.
I think the same holds true too. And Punita, you might come into this as you grow more. People have approached me, larger firms, saying, hey, why don't you join us? Have you thought about that? Or we want to, sorry, my dog is literally snoring right now. That's not me. And I have, oh my God, stop. And I have really had to think long and hard about that. And I've had some meetings with people and realized this isn't going to be any different than what I had before. I'm going to end up being a worker bee and working for someone else, and it won't be that partnership. So be very, if you are in a solo or small practice, same type of thing, date before you get married. If a larger firm wants to come envelop you or, you know, be a partnership with you, really think twice about that as well. It's really important. And I see Beth nodding. I'm sure you've had that as well, you know, people coming to you or trying to think about joining with other people.
I'd also like Carrie, yeah, absolutely, 100% agree with you.
I want to go back to moving up, like a lateral move.
Yeah, can I just interrupt 1 second? I know we have
Okay.
a lot of really talented people in the audience as well. And so if you have any questions or if you want to add, I would love to have this be like a talk amongst all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's good to be like upfront, you know, clear boundaries, even the exit plan if it doesn't work out. And you know, having that comfort level, having that level where you can talk about each and everything, it's really like in a marriage, you can clearly talk about all the issues that you have, how to resolve them, and you should have that exit plan ready. I think if it's not working out, and you both are okay, if it's not working out, this is how we're going to exit.
I had one thing to add to our initial question, because there's about half the people here that are looking to move up or still undecided. I think too, one thing that's really important, if you are in a firm and you want to be partner, let that be known. Talk to, you know, find a mentor or talk to the partners or, you know, ask for an evaluation and say, look, I want to move up in this firm. What can I do? Don't just sort of toil away in the background. I think sometimes I say, think like a man. You know, they don't worry about being too aggressive or ambitious. Go after what you want and make it known what you want.
Yeah.
And then if it doesn't work, well, then you have to think, is this the right place for me? But let your ambition be known and ask them, what can I do? What should I do? I want to be here for the long haul and, you know, see how that works out.
That's a great point. That's a
Don't
great
ask,
point,
you don't
Terry.
get it.
Yeah, and especially for women, you know, you should go and you should say that word. You should use that word. You should, especially for women.
Can I add, Celine, is it okay if I talk on the moving up piece a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
So one of the things I think you can fall into a trap if you're a junior associate is that if I work really hard and everyone will see me and then I'll just be made partner. And that may happen. There may be a, you know, published set of partnership criteria. You might just be like hitting it all the time. But I think what you might want to do is, instead of just kind of blindly following it, is asking the question of, do I want that brass ring? Do I want to be here at this partnership? And so you should be asking those hard questions of, how is comp made? How do you decide all of, sometimes it's mushy. Sometimes people have some really strict like tiers and guidelines. Sometimes it's a formula. And the more that I've talked with all these other different firms, just in terms of like, what's a critical mass, I find that everyone does it all differently. So you need to figure out, when you're trying on suits, right? This jacket fits, this jacket doesn't fit. What jacket works for you? What makes you look best or feels the best for you? So you need to be asking those questions before you spend all of that time working toward partnership, and you get there and they're like, here's the buy-in, and you're not gonna, you know, all these sorts of things. You're like, what? It was better if I was an associate, right? So you should be asking those questions ahead of time of, when you make partner, what does that mean? What does the comp arrangements mean? How are you going to get support in terms of what associates are going to be working for you? Are you going to be able to hire your own secretary or paralegals and other associates? Who gets more, who gets more decision-making, how, right? So all of those types of questions, ask now, because that firm might not be the right firm for you later on. And so you'll want to kind of like be asking around or sending out your feelers now. So that's what I'd like to say.
Audrey, that's
really
really
smart.
Really good question. The follow-up the question is like, how do you know when to make the move, whether to stay or not? Like, how did you decide to go to the firm that you're currently in right now?
So I mean, my path might be a little bit different than everyone else's, but when I joined Morgan Miller Blair, it was there were 3 people who they were like best friends, and they started out and they had this fabulous partnership. And so I had worked for the founders, and they were amazing. They were great, well-respected attorneys in the area. And then we built, I think we started at, when I came on board, there was either 16 or 17 attorneys. And then we moved up to about 37 attorneys. And then lots and lots of other kind of support staff as well. And as we grew, and as the founders decided that they were going to retire, then the new levels of people were kind of coming up. And, I guess in a marriage, right, sometimes people have divergent, you grow apart or you grow differently in terms of what you value. And then I was struggling with, as I was realizing that the firm was maybe going a certain way, and I didn't necessarily, I don't know that I actively disagreed with it, but it, just didn't start feeling right. And then I was kind of looking at those things and then looking at my options, and then someone else had uttered the word of maybe we should jump ship. And I went, that's what I'm thinking. Because as you realize where people are spending money and people are spending resources, and they don't align with what you want or what your vision of the firm is that maybe it's time, right, to start your own firm, to do the things that you want to do and make the vision of what you want to create happen. So that's when it just started kind of feeling not quite right, in your gut. And then you start talking about it actually. And then that's what we did. And we started talking about leaving. So that's what happened for me.
I had a similar,
Terry or Anita, yes.
A similar experience, and sort of, I think that point that Audrey was talking about, do you want the partnership in that organization or partnership at all, is really important, and a really important question to ask. So when I was thinking of leaving my old firm, initially, there were a lot of decisions, but I felt like I wanted to expand my skill set. For one, I'd done so much in this sort of small niche area. I handled some of the highest profile cases in California, and wanted, again, to expand what I was doing. So that was a thought about moving up or moving out. But I talked to a friend who had partnership there. She left, and really talked to her about what did partnership mean there. Would I be buying in, or would it really be in name only? And so I had some really big discussions with her, some big thoughts. And I think I realized I'm not sure partnership at this place is right for me. So that's why, it's really hard decisions for me. Do I want to stay at a place that I've been at for so long? I'm so comfortable. I felt very confident in the work I was doing. Or do you want to step out and go on your own? And, you don't know what's going to happen, especially for me. I had literally 0 clients. So that was really important, a really big step for me, not only expanding my skill set, my practice areas, pursuing some other passion areas, more, the plaintiff's type work, harassment, discrimination, but also what would partnership mean here? And can I even get there? So I could keep working, but what will it mean when I get there? Am I going to be viewed any differently? I think that's really important. So those questions, the answers to those questions for me really led me to move out rather than to move up.
How about you, Punita? How did you decide?
So I was in a company, in a biotech company, and so as I said that, because of, I wanted a flexibility, I wanted that I should have some control over my own schedule. I should have some control here for a few years at least. And that's when I decided that, after my law school, I'm going to start my own. But yes, you, just as in partnership that we just, Audrey and Terry was saying, you talked to people, you talk to your partners, you have some questions. The same as I mean, you should have a support system, even though coming from in-house to a firm. So I really had a very good supporting system in the company, in my company in-house, where my manager and the people I was working with, they were so supportive, and they welcome my idea that, you know, if I want to move out, and these are the things I should consider before doing this, because you do think a lot of questions, but there are so many. When you actually move out, when you actually take that step, then you realize there were so many other questions you did not even think about it. You did not even, oh my God, this is another thing. Oh, I did not even think about it. And I was like, okay, this is not working for me. I have to move out. This is not the place I want to work for another 5-10 years. I want to move out. But moving out and getting into that real world, then you realize, okay, but you should have that support system, but I think you should have people with whom you can talk to before moving out, before taking the step. But also, like, if this is not working for you, when you are ready, when you will know, when you are ready, you will know, okay, I think this is not working. What's next for me here? What next from this point? So you would know that, depending on maybe in the first year of your practice, maybe 5 years of your practice working with that firm, maybe after 10 years of working with that firm. And that's when you say, okay, no, this is not working for me.
What wasn't working for you in particular? Like in-house is, you know, like we all I thought there was a lot of myth that in-house you have it easy. Like you don't have to bill hours.
I know it is. So schedule was not that I didn't have like a flexibility to schedule my meetings, schedule my work. I have to be in, you know, the office starts at 9, 8:30, meeting starts at 8. I have to be there. So people are giving me directions, like when to be in the office, you know, giving me the work I want to do. I don't want to take this assignment. I want to take this assignment. So I wanted that flexibility for myself. I wanted to control my own schedule, which is obviously you cannot do that in-house. Yes, it has its own perks, its advantages, but I think the same with the firm, in-house, every different areas, they have their own advantages and something that doesn't work out for you particularly.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to have like a control over my own schedule, and some days if I don't want to work, I don't want to work. I don't have to take a permission. Can I take a break here? Can I, you know, I don't have to ask anybody.
I see. Yeah, flexibility is key, especially if you have kids too.
Yes.
So the next question is, you know, what are some paths for moving up for women that have to juggle motherhood and work at the same time? Are there specific practice areas you think that are more conducive to moving out to, or, you know, moving up to?
So I have a 16-year-old daughter, and she is just a lot of fun. And then also a 5th grader, and he's just also super active. So, and my partner, Catherine Wenger, also has 2 kids. And then there's just a bunch of people who have mothers who have kids in our firm. And so we've kind of went through this whole process. I think the key thing, no matter what type of practice area that you have, whether it's tax or commercial real estate or litigation even, is that you have a support system. And so when I say support system, I mean at work, right? In terms of people who you trust, who's gonna have your back, who's gonna do quality work for your clients, so that you know that you can, at the drop of a hat, you can say, hey, can you handle this? And they're gonna jump in with both feet and be able to do it and hit it out of the park for you, right? And so that's why it's so important when you have like who you're picking as your partners or who you're picking as your associates, that you trust them. And that's like super important. So you got to have that support system in your work. And then you also have to have that support system in your personal life. And so, you know, for me, we had family around, and then we were also okay using daycare and nannies. And then as your kids get up into school age, then other mothers will say, hey, you know, we're going to be doing this, you know, do you want me to take your son? And you'd say, yes. And then you return the favor, right? But so that it's you have that whole, it takes a village, you got to figure out who's in your village. And no shame if you don't have family around And instead you're going on to care.com and you're finding, 4 different nannies because maybe one isn't going to be able to make it on one day. So you just have a whole bunch of like layers and fail safes for when things come up. And so I've always been a litigator since I started. And then I also do some employment consulting on the side. But in terms of litigation, I like it because when the motion dates are happening, when trial is happening. So everything is scheduled. So I can say, hey, I've got this, 5 days ahead of time. Can you fill in for me? And people will say yes. So you can manage the workload. I found it a little bit more difficult in some of the like commercial real estate deals where people or other deals where it's got to close right now, right? And it's all crazy. But I think it's just different for different people. So litigation worked really well for me, being a mother and being able to work, but also having a really great team as well.
How about Terry? You want to add to it?
I'm a dog mom, but I think being at a place that values motherhood and understands, like I wrote in the chat, the pressures and the juggling act. I often in my, an area of my practice is driving a lot. And I was driving an associate and she had to stop and pump. And she was totally comfortable doing that with me. I couldn't imagine that at my old firm. And we were often on call 24 hours a day. I would get a call at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning to go to a homicide scene, 3 hours away. I could load up my dog in the car, but I couldn't see how some of the gals at my office who were pregnant, 9 months pregnant, waddling into a homicide scene, or having to pump or being away from their baby that long. And I don't think that the partners had really thought about that. How are they going to accommodate and, make sure that our pregnant women were taken care of? And that was something that I kind of raised that issue because I was handling that area of our practice, making sure that everyone was taken care of as well. So I think, having an employer and having a firm that does value that, but understands those issues, I was okay with her pumping in the car. We have to make those accommodations. I think a lot of places aren't, or they aren't prepared to do that.
Yeah.
I think as a woman, we're already doing a lot of work way harder than men is what I think. We have a lot of things on our plate, but it's always good if you have that support system at your work, at your home, at your work, at both places. As Audrey was saying, if your friend is saying, I can take your son to school or, to the activity, and you return the favor, you do those carpooling things. So that all those, support at work, your firm, your office, your support at home, and, your friend circle, everybody, that really helps you a lot. And as a woman, we should all support each other. We are juggling so much. We always have a lot of things, 10 things that are going on our head, when you plan your day. So we all should support. And if there are other women in your firm, you all understand their positions, you understand what they're going through, you go through the same thing. So help each other, I guess, have that support system for each other.
I'd love to hear from the people in the audience if they
Yes.
have any other suggestions as we're, juggling motherhood and practicing. Anyone?
I think Beth had a comment, and Pamela too.
Beth?
I don't know. I always have a comment. I don't remember what that was.
Oh, on motherhood and juggling motherhood and practicing law at the same time. Any tips there?
I don't know. I'm probably a terrible example because I'm really in everyone's face about it. I've had plenty of counsel who want to schedule on the first day of school, or don't want to accommodate things. And I say, no, that's not going to happen. And I'm not going to congratulate you for helping to cook or going to your child's soccer game. You know, that's part of I just don't give special accommodation for them participating in their family life, but I am supportive. I want to hear about their life, but I'm not going to treat them any better than anyone else. That's great. You know, so part of what I was saying earlier was I used to use the term marriage. I try to encourage people to use partnership or team or things like that now, because even though I do agree when those relationships separate, they can have those stressors that come with a divorce. But because there's so much gendered rules that sometimes come from the traditional old school ideas of marriage, not the current modern version, that it can sometimes put pressures on females in the workplace and in the legal workplace, which is one of the last workplaces to really catch up, which is terrible because we're enforcing the law. But I encourage using a word that's not got so much history with it. So trying to use a more business general word to help frame people's thought process. Things like that. The foundation can really help the discussions.
Chime in here too, if that's okay. And my name is Sarah Tetlow. For those that don't know me, I don't practice law, but I have my own company and I work primarily with lawyers. And I am a mom. My sons are 6 and 7.5. And just a couple quick strategies or tips here that have been effective. One, you have to get the kids involved in the day-to-day. So give them that freedom to create some structure, to create some involvement in packing their lunch. My husband usually handles mornings, and he was temporarily living out of state for a while. And so I had to handle mornings, which was new to me, especially in this getting kids to school in hybrid situation. And I found for about 3 mornings in a row, I'm going, do you have your backpack? What about your computer? Do you have a mask? Where's your lunch? Where's your water? And so I went, stop. I took a Post-it note on the garage door and the front door, the 2 doors we walk out of, whether we're walking to school or driving, I put a checklist. And it helped me to stop every morning and go, boom, 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 we have everything. I don't have to keep that in my head. But I found that my 7-year-old liked to be a part of it. So he would grab a pen and he would do check marks as we walked out the door. And then there was check marks on check marks because we used the same list. So kids actually need routine, need structure. They crave it and they do really well with it. So where you can find opportunities to get your children to participate in helping you out with the day-to-day, leverage that. And then similarly, as moms, as women, as lawyers, as type A personalities, it's so easy for us to want to do it ourselves because they don't put it away how we would put it away, or they don't wash it how we would wash it. And so the best tip, start small, pick the one thing you can let go of right now and let your kids do and go, I'm going to breathe. I'm going to walk away. It's okay that it's not put away perfectly. For me, being really, really organized, I'm like, the cars go in the car bins, the trains go in the train bins. But if I want their help in cleaning up, I have to be okay that toys go in bins, period. And they're going to come back out again when the kids want them. So a tip to you is to let go a little bit of some of those things that you want control of. So.
Thank you. I never thought about it that way, that not only should we expect a support system from our family and friends and the workplace, we should ask our kids if they're old enough to also help. And also if you could just let go of the expectations. I think we put so much pressure on ourselves to succeed as women lawyers and women mom lawyers, even more pressure than anything. So, yeah.
Could I just chime in real quick on sort of the mom life and work-life balance?
Yes.
My name is Jessica Tacano. I'm a partner at Donahue Fitzgerald, and my career has been a number of different firms, each of which I had sort of hoped would be the perfect fit for the long term, and each of which, for whatever reason, ended up not being the perfect fit. And for a large chunk of my career, when I had young kids, my sons are now 16 and 12, so they're a little bit older and more self-sufficient. But when they were little, I was working as sort of a glorified contract lawyer, I would say, for a small firm. And that was a really good fit for me at the time because it gave me the flexibility I needed to work only the amount of hours that I wanted to work and could work, and still devote myself to my young children and their activities, even though being a litigator is incredibly demanding, no matter, how part-time you try to be. There are always the ex partes that crop up, and, the all-nighters you have to pull unexpectedly and that kind of thing. But what ended up happening, my husband was also a lawyer at the time. And what ended up happening is he and I ended up having to have a real heart-to-heart about whether either one of us wanted to drop out of being a lawyer, because we found that both of us being litigators and having small children was just kind of too much. And we didn't have family around. We didn't have a good support network. So we hired a full-time nanny, and we found that we were paying as much for childcare as I was bringing home as a part-time lawyer, basically. So my husband basically said, I would be just as happy to not do this anymore. And we let our nanny go, and he decided to stay home with the kids. And I basically went back to work full time for the first time in years. I'd been part-time for a long time. And that was the solution that ultimately ended up working for us, because I enjoyed the practice of law much more than he did. But like Sarah said, I really had to do some letting go. I had to recognize that my husband wasn't always going to do everything the way I would at home or with the kids, and his priorities weren't going to be the same as mine would be if I were the stay-at-home parent. And I just had to sort of release that and say, we've made this choice that I'm going to be the full-time lawyer and he's going to be the stay-at-home parent. And we can have conversations if I feel like something's seriously an issue that, well, gee, the kids aren't being fed, but beyond that, it was just going to be, he makes those choices then about what our life is going to look like on the home front, because I have to be, really focusing my attention on my cases and my practice. And now I feel like I'm finally at a firm where, my experience is paying off, where I've devoted a lot of my time at my current firm to identifying people who are a little bit senior to me in practice. I've been practicing about 25 years, but I've identified a couple of even more senior partners in my firm who have practices that I'm interested in. And I've sort of allied myself with them. And I've tried some cases with these folks, and they've learned to trust me. And now they're on their way toward retirement, and they're looking to hand off their book of business to me. And that has been a really intentional move on my part to position myself to be the trusted person who's kind of next in line to inherit their books and to keep those clients with the firm after they retire. So that's one tip that I would sort of pass along to people who are looking to move up in their existing situations, is find people whose work you admire, you want to work with them, you want to work in their practice area, but who are just enough ahead of you that they'll have business to pass on when they decide to stop practicing.
Jessica, I think that's a really, really great point. Thank you so much for adding that. I would say on that piece of it, make sure they're not too far ahead of you, right? Mm-hmm. So within like the 10-year, but right. Not 15, 20, because otherwise what happens is that if they know that general counsel, sometimes that general counsel will also be moving along if they're about the same vintage. So just kind of, check in. But Jessica, invaluable advice.
I think that's really smart too. And like making it known that you want to be a partner, go out there and ask, hey, I want to work on a case with you. I mean, that's what I did too. I want to be on this case. I want to do, some criminal defense with you, or I want to work on this. and just soak up as much as you can. And then they also know that you have those skills, like Audrey talked about, being indispensable, that you can move up if that's what you want.
One of the things that Jessica had just talked about was the mentorship ability as well. And it sounded like, Jessica, you were intentional with it, but also there was a natural kind of organic way to be able to shine in those people's views, right? And so you could work on projects together, you could work on cases together. Sometimes that's not always available to everyone. And so if that's the case, like, let's just say you're a tax person and you really like the commercial real estate person, and they might not necessarily go hand in hand, that's okay. You can still get to know that, reach out and have a set of informal lunches and get to know them as people, right? Try to be genuinely interested in what they have to offer and establish some sort of rapport. So then that way they could also mentor you in the firm and be your cheerleader in the firm. So it's not necessarily just the person who you directly work with, but there is a large menu of people, right, who are there.
I think one thing that we haven't touched on enough is that idea of rainmaking, sort of twofold. And it goes not only for moving up, but moving out. If you're moving up, are you able to maintain the clients that you have? What kind of client contact do you need? Do you want? My old firm was a lot of lunches, happy hours, things like that. And it was really fun for me and really easy. And I had a big network of people, knew a lot of people. But are you also able to bring new business in? I was one of the only associates really involved in outside legal activities like the Bar Association. So I had a big network of people, which really helped me bring in a few new clients, but also helped me when I decided, all right, I am going to move out on my own. It was invaluable to me to have relationships, people that I could call, hey, Audrey, hey, Beth, hey, I'm going out on my own. Help me out. What should I do? Give me some advice, but also, hey, I'm available. I'm putting my shingle out, send me work. You have to know if you are going out on your own, and we talked a lot about this in preparation, are you going to be able to, number one, if you are able to take a book of business with you, but also bring new business in? Do you want to do the promotion? Do you want to do the networking? Do you want to do those lunches and coffees and happy hours and go to conferences? I like that. I think I'm fairly good at it. Some people don't. That's another question to ask when, all right, if that's a big aspect of your firm and you want to move up, you have to think, how am I going to do that? Be strategic. Or if you're moving out, again, be strategic. How am I going to do that? I spent many nights, gosh, what was that place on the corner? It closed in Walnut Creek by, I'll think of the name probably when we're done. But with this journal, thinking, all right, who are all the people that I'm going to email and call and, say, I'm open for business, send me your conflict work. Who are the associations, in my public area practice that I'm going to reach out to and say, hey, I'm available for work. Just keep that list going. And it was, okay, I think I can do this for 6 months, for, like Punita said, for a year. Let's see what I can do. That's something that I think Audrey was really smart when we were preparing. Do you want to do that? That's something you have to ask yourself. If that's instrumental in your firm, like Punita, what type of clients do you want? I'm sure you asked that of yourself as well. Do I want to go out and get work? That's something to think of.
Or also, and Terry, I absolutely agree with you. And also it's about how are you good about asking for work? And so what works for me is being able to personally connect with someone and be able to talk with them and then understand what either they or their clients need or those sorts of things. But that works for me, but not for everyone. But you can still be a great rainmaker and not have to do that part of it. You might be really good at writing articles. You might be good at speaking to lots of people, right? So there's lots of different ways that you can go ahead and do this. There's lots of different paths on being able how to figure out rainmaking. And we could probably spend like days talking about all those different methods. I don't know if we need to get into the details here.
That'll be our next one.
No, that's too much. But yeah, the good point is that if you're a rainmaker, you're definitely more portable. You can move up in your firm, or you can move out to another firm, or start your own. But I think the question that we're getting a lot in the chat right now is, okay, so what if you do go off on your own? Like, how do you manage? How do you get the right people to work for you, or how do you should you get a contractor, an employee? I mean, rainmaking is one thing, but who should you hire first, and should it be a contractor or should it be an employee?
Well, I see a plaintiff's employment side attorney here. And so contractors are really hard to hire right now in terms of all the new laws with the amended AB 5. So you might run into all sorts of pitfalls and expose yourself to liability if you do hire a contractor, unless, of course, they're providing that service to you and lots of other clients. And so there's a bunch of stuff. But in terms of what was important for us when we jumped, we made sure that the money guy, right? So the guy we ran all of our forecasts, and we figured out, and we did all these different spreadsheets in terms of how many hours do I think I'm going to be billing for all of these different cases, and how much is that going to translate into money, and then what's the collection rate, and when is that money going to be coming in so I can go ahead and pay the bills. In order to run all of those spreadsheets and forecasts and everything else, this guy, right? So you need either this guy or you need to hire someone and we hired him as an employee. He was our controller at our old firm. And so then he came with us, and he's now like the do-it-all man of everything in this firm. But that's key and imperative, I think. And either you have to have someone who's like an interim CFO or a bookkeeper or someone who's money and help you figure all that out.
Great. I'm sorry. I think we are at the 1 hour mark. So I understand that some of you have to leave, but if you are able to stay for a few more minutes, we will just have Terry and Punita answer that question. So please bear with us.
Sure. I disagree with Audrey on that front. I didn't have all the bells and whistles, and I had, I wouldn't even call it a strategic plan. I had somewhat of a plan. But if I had to think in terms of a spreadsheet and processing and this and that, I never would have done it. I was thinking more in terms of who can I get? How can I get there? I thought I didn't need all the bells and whistles either. I wanted to make sure I had some malpractice insurance. I got a real email address, so not at Gmail. It's like $5 to get an email address. Get even just a face sheet for a website. I'm still working on mine, and it's been over 4 years. A good LinkedIn, and you don't have to hire someone in the beginning. I don't think you need, and you don't need a big office. We've learned that in the pandemic to have a professional presence. I didn't have an office, like a brick and mortar office, for 9 months. I wanted to make sure that I could build a practice. I wanted to make sure too, it was something that I wanted to do before I started hiring people, getting into contracts, getting all this infrastructure first. And I don't think you need to start big. I think you can build something from the ground up and you can grow. I'm at a place now where, do I want to continue being a solo practice or hire more people? I need help, but hiring employees can be a pain in the butt. So you have to decide what you want to do, but I don't think you need to hire right away. I have someone who's good at, finding a good bookkeeper is really, really hard. So if anyone wants to email me, whoever they use, that would be great. But having like a right-hand gal, my assistant, but I don't think you need to hire right away, and think strategically when you do hire. Or use contract attorneys if they are putting themselves out there and working for many people, and go from there.
Yeah, I think I agree with Terry. I mean, right away, you cannot take a decision, you want to hire somebody because for me, starting as a solo practitioner, I'm not there yet. It's just 1 year, you just don't start hiring people in 1 year. first of all, yes, you need to have that much amount of work. Second, do you want to expand, or you want to continue as a solo practitioner, because that's why you started being a solo practitioner, that you actually want to bring someone on board. It's a lot of liability. It's a lot of work. It's, it's not easy to hire somebody. I know being, hiring a contractor, as Audrey is saying, yes, that's difficult too, but I think if you have to choose between hiring a full-time employee or a contract attorney, I think I will still go with a contract attorney, because I don't know I'm ready to hire somebody or not. And yes, as Terry was saying, you have to have a email address, a nice website, LinkedIn, networking event, bar associations are there, join those bar associations. They have so many good programs. Networking, yes, for 1 year, it's been a little slow. We are not like used to happy hours or meeting in person, but soon we'll be there pretty soon. So use that. Yes, it is time consuming. Sometimes you feel like, oh my God, that's a lot of time consuming. But I think initially for a few years, if you can do that, it's going to pay off. But yeah, I think hiring an employee, it's a big decision, and you should not just jump into it. If you have a big project, just don't jump into it and say, okay, I have a big project, I think I need to hire an employee, because that's like a full-term, it's a long-term liability. So just think about it. And there are certain other ways of getting the work done.
All right, thank you so much for coming. Heidi, do you want to close out?
Yes, thank you. Panelists, you did a great job. Thank you for sharing your path with everyone. Very good information shared, I believe. And thank you all for coming. Again, this was co-sponsored by the women's section and the solo section. We hope to perhaps have another one of these with more focused questions, maybe on that marketing like you suggested, or rainmaking, etc. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ann Wolf, for your help as well.
Yeah.
I thank you guys. That was great. I just wanted to turn off the recording and then let you know about something that's coming up that I think would be helpful.